วันที่23กันยายน2023ท่านเฉลิมไซกลุ่มสิทธิ์รองนายกรัฐมนตรีกระทรวงการต่างประเทศได้กล่าวปราศรัยต่อกองประชุมอภิปรายทั่วไปของสมัชชาใหญ่องค์การสหประชาชาติสมัยที่78ที่นิวยอร์กว่า
Mr. President, at the outset, I would like to extend my profound congratulations to His Excellency Dennis Francis on his election as President of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly, and I wish him a very successful presidency. Today, the international community is facing a multiple crisis at a level we had never experienced before. Following the negative impacts of COVID-19 pandemic, the major challenges facing developing countries varies from an increasing extreme poverty, external debt, and unjust international financial architecture to extreme natural calamities, external debt, unjust international financial architecture to extreme natural calamities as seen in many parts of the world, especially the recent natural disasters that occurred in Morocco and Libya. I join other speakers in expressing our sympathy and condolences to the people of Morocco and Libya. This has already been compounded by regional tensions and unilateral measures as a result of geopolitical rivalry. All this has not only hampered the hard-earned development progress during the last decades, but also threatened the survival of humankind. At this critical juncture, the most appropriate solutions are needed in order to address such challenges. It requires unified and collective actions that are guided by the principles enshrined in the United Nations Charter, and we must firmly uphold multilateralism in tackling them. To save our world from another catastrophe, our shared wisdom and united political determination are more critical than ever. This must be done by putting aside any unilateral interests and resolutely avoiding greater confrontation and division among the UN member states. To this end, the United Nations must be reformed in a way that it can effectively fulfill its mandate. We need the UN that is more relevant and effective in the rapidly changing geopolitical landscape and be able to address the challenges threatening international peace, security, and sustainable development. We believe that we are now better equipped to tackle global challenges, which include, among others, scientific, technological advancement, innovation. Yet, without common design, shared responsibilities, and collective action, the most vulnerable people in the world will continue to be left behind. Mr. President, resolving global conflict and disputes by peaceful means is the only viable way to ensure long-lasting peace and coexistence. In this regard, we urge an immediate end to the conflict in Ukraine through peaceful dialogues, without which we all would continue to be impacted. We also demand a peaceful solution to the Middle East problem. The PDR calls for all parties concerned to resume dialogue and restore mutual trust for solving the long overdue Palestinian issue through the establishment of two sovereign states coexisting peaceful in line with the relevant UN resolution. Like many others, the PDR believes that unilateralism, particularly unilateral coercive measures, not only contravenes the principle of the UN Charter and international law, but also severely cause negative consequences to innocent people, hinder international development of many developing countries. In this regard, my delegation continues to join global call for lifting the economic embargo against Cuba and removing it from the list of state sponsors of terrorism, as well as ending all unilateral cohesive measures. Mr. President, approaching the midpoint of implementation of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, many countries are still lagging behind. Therefore, we must further strengthen and scale up our collective efforts, which include harnessing scientific and technological achievements to accelerate sustainable development and unleash new impetus for innovation-driven growth. At the G77 in China summit held in Havana last week, heads of state and governments of developing countries echo that science, technology, and innovation, including information and communication technologies, have become fundamental to addressing global challenges and are one of the driving mechanisms of transformation to accelerate progress towards achieving 2030 Agenda. In this context, global governance system based on science, technology, and innovation is essential to identify problems and find effective solutions for sustainable economic development, environment conservation, poverty reduction, and addressing inequality. Likewise, to scale up the implementation of SDG, the UN development system, development partners, and international financial institutions must act together in a more coordinated manner. The UN development system at all levels must also play an essential role in resource mobilization and coordination, including supporting countries in special situations, namely LDCs, LLDCs, and SEEDs, to address their specific challenges. It is evident that one of the key obstacles to SDG implementation has always been insufficient financing. Let me quote the call by the UN Secretary General Guterres. The global financial system is biased, morally bankrupt, and skewed to benefit wealthy country, end of quote. This is a clear signal that the reform of the international financial architecture is an urgent and long overdue task. And this cannot be done without strengthening the participation of developing countries in international economic decision-making, norm setting, and global economic governance in order to adapt to the challenging global economic landscape. Mr. President, the SDG is not just a global development goal, but for the Lao PDR, it is a national commitment. In addition to 17 global SDG, the Lao PDR has SDG 18, which is achieve lives saved from unexploded ordnance, or UXO. Although most of its indicators have advanced to different degrees, the UXO remains a threat to our national development and poses an obstacle to other SDG. We therefore take this opportunity to call for continued support and assistance from the international community to address these prolonged and challenging tasks. For the remainders of SDG, their integration into our national strategies signifies our unwavering dedication. Despite our great effort, the progress base remains less than desirable, as many have stagnated or regressed. The Lao government is now carrying out the third voluntary national review process, conducting track analysis for selected SDGs to identify what need more attention and support. We will present our VNR at the 2024 High-Level Political Forum. In addition, the Lao government has taken various measures, including development of financing strategy as part of the integrated national financing framework, with a view to building a more resilient national financing architecture, as well as opening a window of opportunity to meet the financing needs. As for the LDC graduation effort, we are embarking on the adoption of the National Smooth Transition Strategy, which will help the government, development partners, and relevant stakeholders to stay focused more on development priorities, addressing the most pressing needs and challenges that may disrupt the country's graduation process. Mr. President, the Lao PDR has considerable natural capital, rich biodiversity, and abundant water resources, with opportunity to renewable energy development and investment in carbon capture and storage, which can provide the country with significant development potentials. In this context, we see the important role of science, technology, and innovation in advancing the country's national development agenda to promote green and inclusive growth, as well as digital economy over resource-driven economies with a view to enhancing sustainable use of natural resources. In this connection, the Lao PDR has adopted its National Digital Economy Development Vision and Strategy. Although the Lao PDR is among the countries who contribute the least to global emission, like others, we are the victim of climate change. Nevertheless, we are strongly committed ourselves to the international climate obligations. The Lao government has already adopted national strategy for climate change, but to ensure its full and effective implementation, it requires sufficient financial resources as well as technical assistance, that means, and access to climate finance and other funding resources, which would greatly support developing countries. In this regard, my country urges to realize the international commitment, particularly $100 billion in climate finance for countries in need the most. To this end, our delegation trusts that the outcome of the Climate Ambition Summit 2023 will lay a foundation for concrete actions in the lead-up to COP28. Mr. President, this year marks the 56th anniversary of the establishment of Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN. As an intergovernmental organization for regional cooperation, ASEAN has not only upheld the regionalism and multilateralism, but also played a central role in maintaining and promoting peace, security, and development in the region. We in ASEAN are committed to further strengthen the ASEAN community, as well as enhancing ASEAN unity and centrality in our engagement with external partners, including through ASEAN-led mechanism in order to promote an enabling environment for peace, stability, and prosperity in the region and beyond. In 2024, the Lao PDR will assume the ASEAN chairmanship with the theme ASEAN Enhancing Connectivity and Resilience. The Lao PDR will continue to build upon the past achievement of ASEAN in strengthening the ASEAN community and enhancing ASEAN external relations with our partners for more connected and resilient ASEAN. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate the Lao PDR's commitment to multilateralism with the United Nations at the core, as well as the firm determination to advancing the implementation of the three pillars of sustainable development: economic, social, and environmental, so no one is left behind. I thank you, Mr. President.